Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we will be speaking about the mini pack. So the mini pack, for those who don't know, is from a descendant of the gem pack. The gem pack's leader was Crystal, and her oldest daughter from her second litter, Minnie, went on to have the mini pack. So I am on Apple. No wonder I was like, where is Minnie's scar? Here is Minnie. Let's retry that. Here is Minnie. So she has a scar. I will show you her quickly. Life is Rough Pack 1 coat, 3 brownish eyes, and those howls, which I unfortunately can't click on because she's dead. And nothing wrong with her ears. I can't remember her body size, but unfortunately I can't click on it because she is dead. Strength -1, stamina +1, speed -1, health +1. She is offspring of Crystal and Brownie. She is born in year 4. Minnie is the second oldest of her litter, which consisted of 7 pups, including her, and the oldest female of her mom's second litter. So her siblings were Jazz, who is a male, Potato, who is also male, Pecan, who is female, Acorn, who is a male, and Moonstone, who is female, and Almond, who is a male. So she would have met Lake, but of course Lake didn't. He went to Amethyst Mountain and died in a failed hunt soon after going solo. And so Lake never really went on to actually have his own pack, which is why there's no heir from Crystal's first litter and only starts at her second litter. Okay, when Minnie was a very young pup, her father died while trying to reclaim a carcass him and his mate had hunted. He died to a bear, so she is afraid of bears because of her father's death. But this lessened as she got older because she got more and more confident fighting bears with her mate. After her father's death, Crystal, Minnie's mother, spent more time away from the den as she was looking for another mate so that the pup's survival would be in their favor. After her mother found a mate, who was a male named Leon from Junction View, she introduced him to them and they liked each other at first, but after a while Minnie disliked him more and more. She missed her dad, and her mother and siblings clearly did too. Minnie now has younger siblings as Leo, Lily and Lila are born, and she is now a yearling. Leon dies 2 months after the pups are born when he decided to sleep alone at one of the carcasses Crystal had hunted, and is attacked by a bear and killed in the confusion. At this point Crystal's got more experience, so unlike when Brownie died, she doesn't exactly go looking for a mate. Immediately, at least. But that's all in Crystal's video because that was her perspective, so I'm not going to go into all of that. Minnie left the pack at exactly 2 years old and had witnessed the death of Leon and the arrival of a much better mate for her mom, Avalanche. So after she leaves the pack, she goes with Moonstone and Pecan, her 2 sisters, and they go to Amethyst Mountain, but they soon split up. Minnie stays on Amethyst Mountain because she finds interest in a few of the males around, while her sisters want to explore. They both want to explore, and so they leave Amethyst Mountain and go to Lost River, which is where I did a lot of multiplayer roleplay with those 2, whereas Minnie stayed on Amethyst Mountain and found herself a mate. A few months after Minnie dispersed, she comes across a male who looks a lot like Avalanche with his pitch black pelt and gorgeous green eyes, and they get to know each other and eventually become mates and exchange names. His name is Espen. Okay, so here's Espen. He is a year older than Minnie. I did not realize that. Okay, so year 7 was the year that Minnie and Espen traveled to Slough Creek and set up their territory. Minnie set up her territory right by Crystal's, and they actually overlapped quite a bit if I remember correctly. But over time, as Crystal got older, her territory kind of moved a little bit more west, away from Minnie's, and Minnie's kind of just stayed put. Minnie and Espen have their first litter together, consisting of 5 beautiful puppies. 1 girl and 4 boys. They are left unnamed as Espen's birth pack pups only get their names once they have passed the yearling year, and they choose their names. So I said this because at the time I had kind of stopped naming pups because I could no longer think of pup names very too easily, and yeah, I just couldn't pick their names very well. Also because I kind of wanted to see their personality before I named them, and that's why I only really pick names in the 3rd episode now, so I kind of get a chance to have a look at their personalities. Minnie and Espen lose 2 of their pups, the firstborn male to an eagle, and the secondborn male to disease. Very pretty goat. I wish I could have seen this pup when it was grown up. So 2F I grew up and named and actually played a little bit before I played Minnie the rest of the way until she died at age 6, and then looked at her litters of pups and decided, you know what, actually I don't really want this pup to be the heir, I want Apple to be there. I ended up naming her, growing her up, and I'll show you her in a minute. Actually, I'll just show you her now. So I grew her up, named her Nikita. Here's her house. She clearly took after her father, Espen, a bit more than her mom, and I think it's an NPC coat. I could be wrong. Nothing wrong with her ears, and she is a kind of small wolf with a radio collar. She has a -1 in strength, a +2 in stamina, a -2 in speed, and a +1 in health. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly read through Nikita's story. Okay, so offspring of Minnie and Espen, born in year 7, firstborn female to her mother. She is the only female of her litter. She is confident, active, energetic, and definitely not a pushover. She is somewhat afraid of eagles, as her oldest brother, her mother's firstborn, died to an eagle. Her second oldest brother died to sickness, and so she knows how dangerous sickness can be to some and takes it very seriously. She dislikes taking orders from others, as she is her own boss/leader. She is quite a determined wolf, so do not stand in her way. She is an extremely motherly and maternal wolf. Nikita left her birth pack at age 2 and soon found herself a mate, Colin. They traveled to Slough Creek, where they set up their territory in the west and raised their family and pack until she died at age 7. No cause of death that I can think of, the only one really being rival wolves or other predators. Alright, on to year 8. Minnie and Espen had their second litter of 5 pups, 4 girls and 1 boy. Again left unnamed, as Minnie respected her mate's pack tradition. No pups were lost this year, and Minnie's yearlings were trained well. So that was Nikita and her 2 brothers. Near the end of the year was when Minnie's mother's mate, Avalanche, entered her territory. Luckily there was no conflict, and Minnie quickly recognized him and calmed her mate down, and then asked Avalanche why he was here, which is when he revealed the information to her about her mother's passing. Avalanche left soon after, as he still had pups to raise alone, leaving Minnie mourning her mother. So this was the year that Minnie found out her mother had passed, and also the year that Helene was born and Apple. She has that coat, that eye color, those beautiful yellow eyes, and obviously these howls, which you all have probably heard from her series. Nothing wrong with her ears, and she is also a pretty small wolf. -1 in strength, +2 in stamina, -2 in speed, and a +1 in health. I'll let you read over this. Pause the video if you want to read it. Apple was the only one of her litter to fall sick and luckily recovered at 21%, which is way too close for my comfort. Which is why I'm not surprised that she has lost a few pups to sickness. She wasn't the healthiest of her litter. Next litter, litter 3, year 9. Minnie and Espen have their third litter together of 6 pups, 2 girls and 4 boys, all unnamed. Minnie's first litter, who are now 2 years old, have begun leaving without telling their names. All except one of them, the only female of that litter. She tells her mom that her name is Nikita before she leaves the pack. I did pick an heir from this litter, but obviously he's not the main heir, and it wasn't any of the females that I picked, and he does have a story. This is him. This is Armel. Took after his great-great-grandmother took after his great-grandmother, not great-grandmother Pearl. Beautiful yellow eyes. Here's his house. Nothing wrong with his ear. Oh, no, I lie. He has a torn left ear. And he's an average sized male. +1 in stamina, -2 in speed, and a +1 in health. And I will read his bio in a bit when I actually talk about him and his brother in a minute. Because I'm going to tell you both. Okay, both Armel and the youngest sibling, who I'm going to introduce you to now, both of them have their own stories. Although I do not play out their stories, I did make them stories. Okay, we'll go on to litter 4 now. And this was the year that Minnie died, and the year that Armel was a yearling, and the year that Apple dispersed. Minnie had a 4th litter with Espen of 5 pups, all boys, with only 1 pup, the oldest male, dying to disease. That's 2M. Her 2nd litter's pups, who are now 2 years old, have dispersed. Again, her knowing only one of their names. The 3rd born female of that litter's name was Apple, who dispersed with her other 3 sisters. A few months later, Minnie is killed by a bear at one of the carcasses, and Espen feels guilty that he could not save his mate. For the rest of the year, the yearlings help their father raise their younger siblings until Espen had been so consumed with guilt of his mate's passing that he was literally falling apart. When one day the pups and yearlings woke up to having no idea where their father was, but stayed in their parents' territory until a rival pack overtook them. They had no choice but to flee, and so never found out what happened to their father. Okay, so the male heir that I picked from this litter is Prince. He and Armel have an interesting story as well as their siblings, but their siblings do not stick around long. So I'll quickly talk about Armel and Prince after I show you Prince. Here's the Life is Rough Pack 2, quite fitting for how hard his life started off. Also yellow eyes, but a little bit darker than Armel and Apple's. Beautiful. Nothing wrong with his ears. And he is a very, very small male wolf. He's got a -2 in strength, a +2 in stamina, and neutral stats in both speed and health. And I need to redo his bio. We'll start off with Armel, although their stories do overlap quite a bit. So, Armel is quite a big wolf with lots of power and strength, though he is a big friendly giant 95% of the time. He is not a giant though. He's an average-sized wolf. Don't know why I said that, but not a great idea to get on his bad side. He's intelligent and bright, respects those around him, and expects it back. He has a huge heart, always caring for those he loves. He treasures family and traditions, independent, confident, with strong leadership potential, which does happen later in his life. When his mother died when he was a yearling, he helped his father to raise his younger siblings. That was Prince's Litter. But by the end of the year, his father had been so consumed with guilt of his mother's passing that he was literally falling apart. One day, he and his siblings, younger siblings as well, so that's Prince's Litter and Armel's Litter, woke up to having no idea where their father Espen was, but stayed in their parents' territory until a rival pack overtook it. Having no choice but to flee, Armel and his siblings, younger and same age as him, left, never knowing what happened to their father. As his litter mates and him reached the age of 2, they dispersed, all except Armel. He knew he couldn't leave his younger siblings, who were now yearlings, and so stayed. Life was hard with him being the main provider for himself and 3 others, and got badly injured. 3 others? Isn't it more than that? 4 others. Don't know why I said 3 others, but it's 4 others. And got badly injured in a hunt one day. Due to this injury, he and his younger siblings were facing starvation when a golden she-wolf found them. This she-wolf looked after him and his siblings, nursing them back to health. Armel became curious about the she-wolf. All he knew was that she traveled and healed wolves she came across, and that her name was Serena. There's an important name for you to remember, if you want to remember that name. He began asking questions, and they all soon discovered that Serena was him and his siblings' cousin. He and one of his younger siblings, Prince, joined her in her travels and healing, while the other yearlings soon became independent and went their own ways. Armel learned how to heal wolves, while Prince was more there to help out and protect. The pack grew as more wolves joined to travel and heal those they came across. Later, Armel took over the small pack after Serena's passing, and then he passes later on due to old age in year 18. So now I'll quickly jump to Prince. We're going to read it again from his perspective, except things are a little bit different because it's his perspective and not Armel's. I'll also read his bio. Offspring of Minnie and Espen, born in year 10. Early in his puphood, his father Espen returned without his mother and told them that she was dead, and that a bear had killed her while they were at the carcass. He grew up with his dad and 4 brothers, his older brother passing away from sickness, and his father becoming very distant as he always lived with the guilt that he could not save his mate. Prince is a charming, righteous, gentle, friendly, sharp, curious, sympathetic, compassionate, generous, paternal, often a little reserved and secretive due to his childhood or puphood. He loves adventures and his freedom. That's the main reason why he did not go on to have his own offspring and mate. He decided to stick with his pack. After his mother died, his father and older yearling siblings took care of him and his litter mates. But by the end of the year, his father had been so consumed with guilt of not being able to save his mother that he was literally falling apart. One day, his litter mates and older yearling siblings woke up to having no idea where their father Espen was, but stayed in their parents' territory until a rival pack overtook it. Having no choice but to flee, him and all his siblings left, never finding out what happened to their father. As Prince and his litter mates became yearlings and his older siblings became 2, the 2-year-olds dispersed, with only his older brother Armel staying to take care of him and his yearling litter mates. Armel had a difficult time providing for them and injured himself badly in one of his attempted hunts. Due to Armel's injury, they all faced starvation when a golden she-wolf found them and nursed them back to health. All they knew about this she-wolf was that she traveled around and healed injured wolves like themselves, and that her name was Serena. His older brother Armel started asking questions, which led them to discover that Serena was their cousin. He stayed with Serena for another year before Prince and his little mate reached the age of 2 and started going their own ways. Prince decided to stay with Serena and Armel, and they traveled around helping wolves in need. Prince did this for the rest of his life, mostly running errands instead of healing, and also defending the pack. He wouldn't have wanted it any other way, and passed away protecting his healer pack at age 8. Prince and Armel both died the same year. Armel to old age, and I presume Prince right after him, when there is no leadership, because Serena's now passed and Armel has passed, and so there's not a lot of leadership happening, and that leads the pack into trouble, and Prince defends the pack, and that ends up taking his life. But he would have been age 8, so he lived a good life. Alright, so then Nikita, I told you about her. She goes on to have her own pack and offspring, but we do not continue to follow her because we're focusing on Apple now. This all happens within the background of Apple's story and all my other wolves. However, I'm hoping in the future it leads into other wolf stories as well, because that would be fun and kind of interesting. It would also be cool for this healer pack to meet other content creators packs. Like, that would be pretty cool. Although I haven't really thought a lot about how Brownie's death may have affected Minnie, other than her fear of bears, and that her father's death also made her realize how precious life is, and that's why she values family so much. As for how Apple may have found out about her mother and father's deaths, I would say because the year Apple disperses is the year that Espen and Minnie die. So I want to imagine that Minnie and Espen's death happened quite early in the year, like soon after Prince's litter is born. And so Apple is kind of still around. She hasn't quite left the pack yet, and so she knows her mom's dead and her father's now disappeared. Or she somehow received news when Armel and Prince went to Amethyst Mountain and met Serena. Although that wouldn't make sense, because I imagine Apple helping out with raising Prince's litter and the yearlings, if they did all go to Amethyst Mountain. So I'm going to say that Apple is around long enough to know about her mom's death, but thinks that her father will be fine, he'll find himself a new mate, and that new mate will help raise Prince and Armel. But then I'm sure after Espen disappears and Apple's on Amethyst Mountain, she would hear when she returns to Slough Creek about this male wolf that just disappeared, leaving his youngsters at the mercy of the world after his mate's death. So that's how I think Apple would have found out about all of this. How this affects Apple, I think, I'm not too sure how it would affect her. If you have any ideas, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. But yeah, that's Minnie's story and some of her offspring stories as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!